Hi there, my name is Zach. I go by Babysoft on Magic Online and social media and such. Back there is Charlie Chaplin, and today I want to run through my latest obsession, black-green Broodscale combo in the pauper format. Now, you might be thinking, oh, that's such a basic deck. That's just the best deck in the format. And like, yeah, it is. But there are two versions of it. There is the version that is just straight black-green, we're going to combo kill you, you're going to die, but we're a little soft to mono-red and to mono-blue Fae, and just other strategies that can get under us. And then you have the red version that's splashing Writhing Chrysalis, a card that's pretty dang good. I have successfully 5-0'd twice in the same day with that red splash version. It's a very good deck. It's very strong. One of my biggest issues with that deck is the fact that 3-color mana bases in pauper are so difficult. I just think the red version loses to itself more often than the straight green-black version does. Which kind of brings me to this deck. The biggest thing that makes it different is 4 copies of Generous Ent and 4 copies of Exhume. Pauper playable reanimation spell. Each player puts a creature card from their graveyard onto the battlefield, and Generous Ent is just one of the land cyclers from the Lord of the Rings set. The process kind of to getting here was sort of this tension that I expressed earlier in the red splash, that I want to stop losing to my own mana base, I want to just play green-black, but I miss Writhing Chrysalis. How can I get Writhing Chrysalis into the green-black shell? Generous Ent does a very good Writhing Chrysalis impression. It's got a big butt, it's got a lot of power, it has reach, and it makes material when it enters the battlefield. Generous Ent providing the food can be life gain and a buffer against aggro decks, but it also serves as something for you to sacrifice to your Deadly Disputes and Eviscerator's Insights. I originally had Troll in the list because I was directly inspired by the Legacy decks that play for Troll of Khazad-dûm, and I kind of realized we can do a similar thing in pauper. I have come to the conclusion that Troll itself is not really worth including in this package. You don't need a ton of fetch lands to make the mana base work. Generous Ent by itself to be able to find a copy of Haunted Mire is just enough. There should be a second Haunted Mire in here, or something. There's only 59 cards, whatever, it doesn't matter. Generous Ent taking up 4 slots here, 20 mana sources. I have maybe had 3 games where I would blame Generous Ent for needing to mulligan. And kind of the thing that I tell myself in my head is, if Generous Ent was a copy of Twisted Landscape, would that have made this hand keepable? And almost every time, it's no. Or like, I technically could have kept it, but I am starting off on such a slow start that it probably should be a mulligan anyway. And that's sort of the logic behind that, or behind Exhume, is you're not actually adding 8 cards to your deck, you're only adding 4 copies of Exhume to the deck, and you just need to find room for it around the edges. You'll notice, compared to the average black-green Broodscale combo deck, we are running most of the same cards. We have shaved a Shambling Ghast, we have shaved a Nadir's Nightblade, we have shaved a Duress, we have shaved a Tameo. The Jund version of this deck has taught us you do not need to run 4 win conditions alongside your Broodscale. The number of games that I would win because I had a Chrysalis on board and then I combo off with my Broodscale, making an infinitely big Chrysalis and then killing you immediately, not enough for me to really miss it. Clearly, there is room in the deck for Exhume. We still get to run 8 of our Eviscerator's Insights. We still get to run 4 Ichor Wellsprings, 4 Malevolent Rumbles. This is the engine that hums in the deck. So many decks in the pauper format play around. This particular version of that engine simply wins the game with the 2-card combo of Sadistically and Basking Broodscale. The Nihil Spellbomb in the main is definitely a flex spot. It is a fun of. You can kind of make that whatever you want. The list before this, it was another copy of Troll of Khazad-dûm. I had just wanted to try what does 20 mana sources, 4 of them being Generous Ents. How does that look? How does that feel? It went well. It was good. Shambling Ghast, kind of the whole conceit of this deck is we are trying to build our insane late game value engine combo deck in a way that it doesn't just lose to aggression. Shambling Gas is a necessary evil in that world. You will have games against mono red sometimes where you have an opening hand that looks like this, and you can just go turn 1, cycle Generous End, turn 2, Exhume, get back a 5/7, and you still have access to Shambling Gas to help shore up any blocking. I happen to draw Duress. Honestly, this game was just the best possible draw you could have against mono red, and they didn't just outright, nut draw me with a bunch of Coldotha Rebirths and a Bushwhacker. They almost did. But yeah, this game is just a really good example of how we are able to build the deck in a way that takes advantage of the cards we have access to. Generous End is a good card. Your mana base is good in this version of the deck. And we're not really having to sacrifice anything as a result. And here we go. They bushwhack me. I take their last bolt. I have a Deadly Dispute. I have a food. My opponent just scoops. Like, you can have games like this. You can have games where you just win with Generous End. And that's the post-board plan too. So this game here is just meant to show kind of an example of Exhume putting in some work. This is against the Demir Sneaky Snacker list. Is it Carves who's been kind of grinding this one? We're able to slam Basking Broodscale here, mostly because we have Vines of Vastwood and Exhume. Our opponent can't kill Broodscale without having 2 pieces of interaction. Now that we've untapped, it's even better. Went for the adapt here, get the counter, get the guy. I decide to pass so that I can have 2 attempts next turn. They go for a cast down. I go to protect it. They have a counterspell for my Vines. So this is a spot where Exhume really shows off what it's about. My opponent was waiting for me to commit to the Sadistically. I will say that is something you have to be very aware of when you're playing this version of the deck. Exhume gives you extra copies of Broodscale. It does not give you extra copies of Sadistically. Be very mindful of when you're trying to push. You can see I passed the turn because I didn't have 2 green mana open to protect my Vines with. In this spot, though, I'm able to just Exhume. Doesn't matter if they have Sneaky Snacker because I have an Adir's Nightblade in hand, and I can just go through my combo here, protected by Vines still, but my opponent, they had their counterspell, they had their cast down, that was all their interaction they had, and I am just able to win the game from this spot. Obviously, we have to get in for 0 with our Eldrazi Spawn token. If you're not attacking with your tokens when it doesn't cost you anything, what are you doing? So now we're able to slam Broodscale into 2 open mana because we have the copy of Exhume. Opponent attacks. I decide to adapt my Broodscale here. No snaps, I'm kind of testing to see my opponent's interaction in this spot. I block just to save 6 life. I still have another spawn in play. Opponent has 4 cards in hand. Excuse me. Now having drawn Generous End, we're in this spot where, and I'm attacking them, I'm just trying to see what they have. They had a null. Okay, I now cycle my Generous End, and I'm able to Exhume, to get back the Generous End. They emergency brainstorm, they don't find anything. I slam the Ent down. How do they beat a 5/7? I now have time. They have to draw an answer, and I can just kind of sit back and wait. I can start pushing damage. Applying pressure in a way that they weren't expecting in the matchup. I'm just winning with combat damage in this game. That's kind of the crazy thing about this, is the Writhing Chrysalis plan is still alive, and it exists. It's not very common. It's going to be decks like Mono Blue Terror, Creature Light, stack interaction heavy decks that are going to let you exploit sort of this angle of the deck. Generous End is mostly meant to just be a roadblock for your opponent, but it can beat down. It has 5 power. I believe this is against what I called Mono Black Affinity. It might be the Sack deck or one of the Packdoll Terror decks, but we have our turn 2 Generous End start. They snuff out. And this is where I really want to highlight the food token that Generous End makes, because we are able to Deadly Dispute that food token, and in this case, we draw another copy of Exhume. There's another Generous End. Their only answer to this is Snuff Out, and Snuff Out is also their best answer to Broodscale. So just in a game like this, where we're able to present a threat that they need to deal with, that also we can just have sit back and take Furby hits, it's very valuable. It's, in my opinion, better than Writhing Chrysalis because it actively makes our mana base better. And lastly, for all of you Broodscale grinders out there, I just kind of wanted to show off this game. This is a game 1 in the mirror, where I kind of had to mulligan down pretty low. I don't love my hand. I have lost. I think this is like one of my 3-2 leagues where I'm currently 2-2. I'm playing like for the 3-2 right now. Opponent has the combo. They're able to go off, to make infinite mana, all that, but they are tapped out. It's turn 3. So I block so that I don't die. And I have Sadistic Glee of my own, and I just want to show you a trick that you can do. That this one was funny. They don't block every time. Just sometimes they don't block, and this game was particularly funny because this was game 1, and my opponent has conceded the match in this spot. I also have put it down in a Mox field. I have wrote a primer. A lot of the things that I have said in this video is also in the primer, plus a sideboard guide, and I'm scrolling fast enough that you can't read it. Haha. So check out the Mox field. There's a link in this video. I'll drop links elsewhere. Make money, cast Sadistic Glees. GleeZard is life. GleeZard is king. GleeZard is us, is all, is love, is happiness, is GleeZard. Remember that. And take care.